So what we want to look at today is why do we make concrete cubes on site? So what are the implications of making your concrete cubes on site? So on-site concrete cube test ensures that concrete used in the structure meets the required strength and quality standards. So it helps in quality control, prevent failure, and ensure safety and durability of the structure. So the cube we make on site is a test. So and this test is what tends to ensure quality and also help to know the standard of the concrete. So and we have the components of these cubes. So the first component is stamping rod, which is 16 mm in diameter by 600 mm. Then we have the second one to be cube mold. So our cube mold is usually 150 mm by 150 mm by 150 mm, which is going to give you the volume 0.15 by 0.15 by 0.15. So it's going to give you the volume. Then we have our fresh concrete mix. It's the fresh concrete mix that you're going to put into the cubes. So we have the base plate slash surface. So we are also going to be needing a base plate and base plate for this experiment. So the mold detail, let's even look at the detail of the mold. How does this mold looks like? So we have the top view, the side view of this mold that we use in this experiment. So the mold is 150 by 150, just as we've said. So you can see how it looks from the top view and from the side view. So and if you check the test procedure, so the first thing to do is to fill the mold with fresh concrete in 3 equal layers. So the layers are going to be 3. So you first put the first one, you use your tamping rod, then you pour again, you use your tamping rod, then you pour again. So the concrete you are going to be pouring is going to be in 3 layers. So the second thing is to compact each layer with 25 strokes using the tamping rod. So as you pour the first layer, then you compact each of the layer, and that first layer you compact it with 25 strokes using the tamping rod. Then you put the second layer again, then you compact 25 strokes using the tamping rod. Then you now put the third layer, then you repeat the same process. Then we have level this top surface and remove excess concrete. So you level the top surface, right? That is the top surface of the cube. Then you remove the excess concrete on the tube. So the cube, so you remove the excess concrete, make sure that it fits into the cube. Then keep the mold in a vibration free area for 24 hours. After you are done with your compaction, you keep the cube in a vibration free area for 24 hours, right? Then after that, you now demold the cube and cure in water until testing. So you demold the cube, that means removing the formwork from the cube. Then you do the testing, you understand, in 7 days, 14 days, and 28 days. So when you demold the cube, you cure in water, you understand. So you put the cubes inside water, you understand, until the testing days. So you do testing for some of the cube in 7 days, 14 days, and 28 days. So you'll be able to know the strength of the concrete. So you can see the cross-section view of the cube. So you can see fresh concrete, you can look at it inside. Then you can see cube mold, then you can see the base plate. So the base plate is underneath the cube, right? So the importance now of this experiment, it actually ensures required strength is achieved. So it helps you to ensure that the required strength, you understand, for whichever concrete structure you want to construct, that the required strength is achieved. Then it helps in quality control at site. So this actually helps you to control quality, you understand, on site. Then identifies issues early, you understand. So with this type of method, it helps you to identify, the surging issues on site. Then it helps you to avoid rework. So if you know that the concrete itself is not workable, you have to just change the concrete and mix another concrete, so that you not have to start doing reconstruction. Then ensures safety and durability of the structure. Yes, so it helps you to gain the entirety of the safety that is needed for the structure, and also the durability for the structure, so that your structure will be very, very strong and durable. So we have this note here that standard cube size is 150 mm by 150 mm by 150 mm. Yes, unless specified otherwise. So it is only when they give you another specification that you'll be able to use that specification, right?